on the river to turn it into wild and scenic rivers in the wilderness areas. These are vested water rights, and the state's just sitting by. This is a prior appropriation state, as you know, and they're taking these, and the state's doing nothing. Well, of course, I believe the people that own the water right are doing nothing too. They're consenting by their silence. Is there any bill, or have you addressed anything to stop that?
We did, and the environmental Sierra Club comes to all my meetings, and they're very vocal. And we changed because of the change that the state did. Both Forest Service and BLM are making in-stream claims to water. And I don't remember the numbers, but I mean, it's a lot. You know, it's maybe a couple hundred throughout the state. So what we did to slow them down so that we can get organized and address them is that when they submit an in-stream right, they have to submit 5 years of data. Well, they don't have that 5 years of data, so we've slowed them down. We do have a new director of Department of Water Resources, and she is working with me. So it is, you know, this. If you want to have a meeting on water, I'd be happy to come back and discuss that.
What's their beneficial use that they're claiming this water? You have to have a beneficial use.
Bugs and weeds. In fact, in Patagonia, does anybody know Dennis Parker? He's a biologist. When I first met him, he had a ponytail and Birkenstocks, lived in Patagonia. And he was one of the attorneys that sued with the Southwest Center for Biological Diversity and won $500,000 for the Children's. And he went to California he's both licensed now and passed the bar in California and Arizona. And so we have an attorney that's a biologist that can fight these things. And when I was in the house, he came to me and he says, Gale, he says, Patagonia, the Nature Conservancy has applied for in-stream rights in Patagonia, and I've looked at the data, and they're actually claiming more water than exists. Their data is flawed. And he says, I can't get the Department of Water Resources to do anything about it. So I pick up the phone while Dennis is there, and I said, we have a problem. Supposedly the wells that were used and the information that was used in this study aren't even in this watershed. You know, so, you know, we want you to have a meeting. We've done the study, it's done, it's done and final. And I said, fine. I would like you to come to my town hall in Patagonia. The issue is water. Well, then they started tap dancing and thought, well, maybe we should have called a meeting instead of you. So we had another meeting. And so what came out of that meeting was that each of the town people accompanied the individuals that pulled the data. Now, what was interesting was the data collection was done by the Nature Conservancy as well. So they had an in-stream right claim application in. They were doing the data. They had flawed data that they submitted, and the Department of Water Resources accepted it. So what we did was they agreed that they would do another study. So each of the townspeople went with the other people that did the study, and lo and behold, the figures were different. And then the Nature Conservancy withdrew their application. But how many places has that occurred with some of these environmental groups and BLM and Forest Service? And if they can control your water, they control all of you. So, and they had a bill, now this is prior to this new director, had a bill for Cochise, well, it was moving water from non-active management areas to other non-active management areas, or from the upper San Pedro River. Now, Fort Huachuca and the environmentalists and the community are at heads, because the Southwest Center thinks that Fort Huachuca would make a beautiful antelope and jaguar preserve, and they want to close Fort Huachuca. And so, when they wanted me to sponsor the bill, and I said, are you kidding? Why would I do that? So they got Sylvia Allen to submit it, and she says, what do I do? And I said, when you get the draft, come see me. When you get the final, come see me. When we looked at it, she says, Gale, they're after your water. And she says, what do we do? And I said, you drop the bill, because if you don't sponsor it, somebody else will sponsor it and actually work it. And I said, it'll be assigned to my committee. I just won't hear the bill, which is exactly what happened. It was assigned to my committee. I refused to hear it. They got somebody over in the House to submit the bill. Passed out of the House. Came over to the Senate. It was assigned to my committee, so it died. The very last day that we were in session, the sponsor of the bill, well, they ended up amending it onto another bill, and it came over. The sponsor of the original bill that had the amendment on it withdraw the amendment. And so I talked to the president of the Senate at that time, was Russell Pierce, and so he held it because it didn't have a committee hearing, because I refused to hear it. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, when we adjourned at 5, 2 o'clock in the morning, that particular senator stomped out of the Senate, really ticked because his bill had not gone to the floor for a vote. Had it gone to the floor for a vote, it probably would have passed, because there's not that many of us rural legislators. They don't understand water. They're used to, as I was, turning on the spigot and having water come out. And if they forget to turn off the hose, so it costs them an extra $5. But when you're talking about replacing your pump, how much is that going to cost you? So they don't understand. So we killed it 3 times. Last year, the same House of Representative member wanted to bring it back. We have a new director of Department of Water Resources, and she says, Griffin doesn't want that bill. I support her decision, and I will not support it if you drop it. So it wasn't dropped. But when we're gone, and somebody else is in there right now legally, you cannot transfer water out of one watershed to another watershed. Senator Arsberger passed that years ago, and we've been able to hold firm. But we're going to be looking at water and interim committees before the session, and cattle growers are helping me with that and address issues as well. So it is an important issue. Most of us, and you, work from sunrise to sunset, and go home and eat dinner, and thank you for coming out and being involved. I can't tell you how important this election is. This is the most important election of my lifetime, of my children's lifetime. If we don't get property rights protection and a change in the administration so we have our freedoms, it's over, folks. You know, get the neighbor on each side of you. I don't care what party you are. Ask the questions. How do you stand on this, this, and this? We have some I happen to be a Republican. We have some people, some Democrats that are supportive. Gus Arsberger was helpful. Jack Brown was helpful in our rural issues. But find out how they stand on these issues. Fighting for property rights is important, and your freedom of speech and freedom of religion. It is your freedom that is at stake. And we need more of us to show up. And I do have, I love my committees because I have more cowboy hats and boots show up than city slickers. So I appreciate you making the trip. And the cattle growers and the Farm Bureau, both of them. They'll stay till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and as long as our meetings are still ongoing, to fight for your rights. So, and NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business, fights for rural as well as for city. So I'd be happy to talk to you more about water, but who controls the water controls it all.
I don't think there's any water rights left for them to claim, and they're using this riparian word. There's no riparian water law in Arizona. That's a farce.
Well, we need to redefine several things. One of my bills that I intend to do, and I'm working real close with resource conservation districts, and I want to give them more authority. Right now, they have authority in the state for water management, water and soil management. We need to save the soil and the lands from eroding. And we just need to give them more authority to do what they're doing. There's other groups forming that want to strip their power because they're the boots on the ground. Those are the ones on the ground that know how to manage property. And no management is not wise management. I mean, we have to manage. We need to get the cows back on. We need to thin the forest. We need the so-called riparian areas are so unhealthy that they're dying, and that's the build-up fuels that we're seeing.